Welcome to Christenberry Fieldhouse on the beautiful campus of Augusta University as the Augusta Jaguars getting set to take on the Lander Bearcats. I'm Robert Ambrose. Good afternoon to all of you. I'm joined today by Blake Collins. Blake, how's it going?
Absolutely wonderful, Robert. It's a gorgeous day, and we've got a really interesting Peach Belt matchup ahead of us.
Yes, we do. Both teams with just 3 losses on the season. The Jaguars are 14-3 overall. The Bearcats go into this match 15-3. The Jaguars are 3-1 in conference play. The Bearcats are 2-1 in conference play as well. These two teams will also meet the final match of the regular season in Lander in Greenwood, South Carolina on November the 3rd. That's the final match before the Peach Belt Conference Tournament, which will also be hosted by Lander and Greenwood the following weekend.
Which that particular game could have major playoff implications.
It absolutely will. And this one too, as both teams don't want to find themselves with having a tough hill to climb. They want to set the tone early on in conference play. Starting tonight, the Jaguars get set for this one, and they will have a quick turnaround as they have to take on their cross-border rivals, the USC Aiken Pacers, tomorrow at 2 p.m. start time for that match tomorrow. So it's a busy weekend for this Jaguar volleyball team, and they look to get it started on the right foot here tonight here at Christenberry Fieldhouse as they take on Lander Bearcats. This is a special presentation of the Augusta University Athletics Network. When we come back, we will take a look at other scores from around the Peach Belt Conference here today. We'll see what else is going on and what some of the other teams are doing, and we'll also take a look at the standings as well here on the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. We'll be back. Welcome back here to Christenberry Fieldhouse. I'm Robert Ambrose alongside Blake Collins as we're just over 10 minutes from getting this one started between the Jaguars and the Lander Bearcats. Let's take a quick look at what else is going on around the Peach Belt Conference here today. This is going to be one of 3 conference matchups going on tonight here at Christenberry Fieldhouse, as USC Aiken traveling to take on Georgia College tonight. That match will also begin at around 7 p.m. Eastern Time here tonight. And another matchup that is currently in action is the Flagler Saints taking on the Braves of UNC Pembroke. We, as of right now, do not have a score update for you there, but that game was underway at 6 o'clock p.m. And let's also now take a look at some of the standings nonetheless as we get close to starting this one. USC Aiken, the Pacers, they'll be the Jaguars' opponent tomorrow. And they're up top in the standings, 3-0 in conference play, unbeaten, 12-2, Blake, overall. They had a great season last year. They were the conference champs, and they're in a prime position to repeat still this year. Still a long way to go, though.
Yeah, they've got a prominent and another stout season on their way. They do everything right, the fundamentals of the game right. The phenomenal footwork, great transitional play. The front court is not bad either. You know, I mean, they are pressing all the right buttons at the right time. It is going to be a critical matchup tomorrow, but if you're Augusta right now, you want to focus on the Bearcats here at home tonight.
Absolutely, and the rest of the standings, the Jaguars right behind the Pacers in second place at 3-1 and 14-3 overall, and these Lander Bearcats right behind the Jaguars, 2-1 in conference play and 15-3 overall. So that's how huge this game is. It's a battle for sole possession of second place and to keep pace with the Pacers, who the Jaguars play tomorrow, which could be a battle for first place.
Well, it's not very often that you have coming back-to-back on your home court. It's a critical weekend for the Jags because not only do you have number 3 in your house, but you also are going to combat number 1 in your house the day after number 3 leaves. So it is a crucial stamina test for an already driven Jaguar team to make it far, to push the envelope and make it farther than they did last year. And this will be a good weekend to test their grit, test their drive, test their determination, test their all-around fundamentals, and test everything about volleyball that they've done so well up until this point. It is going to be a difficult weekend at home for the Jags, but it's also going to be a really crucial weekend in terms of getting better, building more chemistry, and making a fierce statement coming out of this weekend.
Absolutely. And now to wrap up the standings, so Georgia College in 4th place at 2-2 in conference play and 9-7 overall. Francis Marion 1-3 conference play, 9-8 overall. The Flagler Saints 1-3 in conference play, 6-10 overall, and the Braves of UNC Pembroke 0-2 conference play, 5-11 overall. And Blake, I also mentioned the other games going on today. What would you say is at stake with those games, plus considering the standings I just mentioned? I did mention, of course, USC Aiken, who the Jaguars take on tomorrow. They have a big game tonight against Georgia College, so that's where their focus is. They can't look past that one before they get ready to play the Jaguars at tomorrow, which is a 2 p.m. start time here at Chris and Barry Fieldhouse.
Well, as we've seen earlier this year, the Peach Belt Conference is so much improved from a couple years ago and a year ago that on any given day, any team can beat anyone. Georgia College gained a victory and was victorious over this fierce Jaguars team a couple of weeks ago, or last week, and they surprised the Jaguars with a 3-1 victory and the Jaguars 3-1 loss. You didn't see it coming. This conference is so much improved. So from the Georgia College perspective, you've already done it once with the Jags, played your heart out. And the Jags are a very good and fierce competitor to see how you match up against the best in the conference, with the Jags being right up in that category with USC Aiken. So that's going to get them set for that matchup tonight. And then for the Flagler and Pembroke side of things, for Flagler to turn around one victory in conference and for Pembroke to finally get on the conference victory board. They sit at 0-2 and they trail dead last in the conference thus far with an overall record of 5-11, and Flagler's only one win ahead of them at a 6-10 record. So that'll be one of those games to put a little bit of separation from the bottom of the pack up, but it's going to be a crucial conference weekend all around the Peach Belt Conference.
Absolutely. It's going to be an exciting weekend of college football, an exciting weekend of NFL, an exciting weekend of the baseball playoffs. Major League just getting underway. But most importantly, Blake, it's an exciting weekend of Peach Belt Conference volleyball.
Absolutely.
That's the most important thing. We'll take another quick break. When we come back, we'll take a look at the way things have been going for the Jaguars lately take a look at some of their recent games and also what they have coming up. We'll give you a little quick preview on that as well on the other side of this break. And the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube will be back. Welcome back here to Christenberry Fieldhouse. Getting closer to the start of this match between the Jaguars and the Bearcats. I'm Robert Ambrose, joined by Blake Collins, and take a look at what the Jaguars have done recently. They're coming off a victory on Tuesday night against Emmanuel, 3-1 victory. They dropped the first set of the match and then won 3 sets in a row to take the match 3-1. And before that, they swept their weekend series last weekend. They took on UNC Pembroke and Francis Marion, both on the road, and they won 6 out of 7 sets in those combined 2 games to complete the sweep. Before that, they fell to Georgia College in Milledgeville 3-1 after the win against Flagler last 2 Fridays ago. And the Jaguars will rematch against Georgia College on October 16th, a chance for revenge in that one here at Christenberry Fieldhouse. Jaguars have not fallen since that time, and I'm sure that'll be a big game as well. And Blake, you were here Tuesday as the Jaguars, you said it was a hard-fought game, and they dropped the first 2 sets, and they did what they do a lot, turn it around. And
well, it was a very hard-fought victory for the Jags to start off with, because Emmanuel came in like a house of fire, and then not only that, they had really good footwork. Their front court was the best the Jaguars have faced up to this point. They were on par with everything on the front court. Now, also, as well, their defense was spectacular all the way around. Their defensive mind was really good. They kind of attacked when they saw blood, and they captured some of the points out of those. The area where they kind of faltered a little bit was in the error department. That's where it came back to haunt Emmanuel during that game. But they also had a ton of heart and exhibited that, because they were down, like you and I have seen Augusta get out to these runs and get out to these consecutive points to where they have a really good point spread on the board and look like they're going to take the set easily. But Emmanuel said, we may be in your house, but we are not going to die without a fight. They came back surging in numerous sets to make those sets closer than what we thought up here initially on that day. And it was one of those games that, even though Emmanuel is not in this conference, it was a really good test to get Augusta ready for this type of physical, this type of absolutely intense Peach Belt Conference play, such as they'll be facing this week, because not only was Emmanuel's front court good, but their defense was solid as well, and Augusta has not really seen much of that this particular year. Lander is one of the better all-around teams in the conference as well, with USC-Aiken coming right behind them tomorrow. So it definitely lent them very well to face a tough competitor out of conference, to get them set up beautifully for this weekend to see if they can take games between Lander and USC tomorrow.
Absolutely, Blake, as we're getting set for first pit for the opening serve here. And let's make note, the victory against Flagler 2 Fridays ago, it was a 3-game sweep. That was the 400th career victory for Jaguars head coach Sharon Corral. She's in her 10th season here in Augusta. This is her 4th different team that she has coached on in her coaching career. She graduated from University of Florida in 1993 and has been very successful wherever she has gone, and has most recently completed her 400th career victory. And as we get close to starting here tonight, she's going to be honored with an award very shortly. That's coming up here, and we hope you all stay tuned for that as we get closer to opening serve here. As they are announcing the players, we will pause for the rest of the announcements and the national anthem, which will follow. Welcome you back here to Christenberry Fieldhouse. The anthem has concluded as Sharon Corrals, head coach of the Jaguars, is being honored and getting the picture taken with the entire team as part of this award presentation for her 400th career victory, which happened on September 21st right here at Christenberry Fieldhouse in a 3-0 sweep of the Flagler Saints. And what an accomplishment for Coach Corrals in her 10th season here in Augusta. And now we are set for volleyball here at Christenberry Fieldhouse. Jaguars in their home whites and the Lander Bearcats in their road pink jerseys with blue numbers. Jaguars have Natalia Govea, Chloe Allen, the Libero Holland Martin, and Mackenzie Beck, Peyton Murchie, and Savannah Gonzalez. Correction, Blair Burton and Savannah Gonzalez to start this one. Here tonight, I'm Robert Ambrose, and to bring you the play-by-play for the first 2 sets of this one, here's Blake Collins.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, this is going to be a really good battle back and forth between very disciplined and all-around effective squads for Lander and Augusta. respectively. Now Augusta has a very fermented and strong front court with a tough and rigorous defensive backcourt as well. So look for that to be kind of a little bit of an issue for Lander to try to work around here as the first serve is served up, and Augusta has the ball. Savannah Gonzalez tries to hammer it back home, but she cannot, and Lander decides to, on the first possession, go after Blair Bolton, who is getting a start here on the outside attacker position, and they score their first point on that, and then the Jags come right back with a service error to deadlock this score at 1-all. Yeah, Garmos on the attack and the serve for Augusta. Garmos sets it up beautifully to Beck on the near side. And then Lander had a gorgeous setup, but just too much of a powerful attack. Shoots it wide of the out of bounds on the back court, and Augusta is gifted with their second point.
I know, Blake, it seems like we go over this just about every time we call a match, but the Jaguars really love to line people up on the net, and what we've seen on their last few serves is they line them up basically one behind another up against the net, and occasionally you'll see them up on the net altogether. And you're seeing also the Bearcats early on a very interesting lineup as they are keeping everybody back, and the two people they have close to the net are up on the line, which is a little bit back as well. Which
means that you'll have a big opening on the front court at one point or another. Now, the thing that helps Lander with that positioning, though, is their footwork and their speed to cover up those holes that Augusta is trying to exploit. But right now, Augusta shoots out to a three-point advantage, but then Lander, off of a service error for the Jags, creeps back up, only trailing by 2. Now, the possession is ignited from the serve by Lander. Over back to Savannah Gonzalez. A setup for Mackenzie Beck, who had a powerful, like she was going for a powerful kill, but in mid-air adjusts extremely well to a little soft touch over right in the breadbasket of 4 Lander defenders, and none of them could get to it in time. So as beautiful as that was, Lander comes right back off of another Augusta miscue, and Lander's keeping it close off of some miscues by Augusta, which plagued them drastically in that Emmanuel affair that they won on Tuesday. Now Lander shoots back, set up beautifully in the center. Augusta comes back with a transfer over to McKenzie. McKenzie gets it over. Lander, though, is right back on the defensive attack, and a deflection there by the defensive setter on the outside. Gets it back over to Augusta. Then the blocking execution by Lander was flawless as they timed those jumps brilliantly and perfectly to tomahawk that block into the Augusta side. And Lander has edged up here, and they're only behind by 1, Robert.
Absolutely, and if there's anything that Coach Quarles will want to address whenever we get to a timeout, there's no real rush to get to one, but once they do, what needs to be addressed is they can clean up the service errors. It's a much different ball game at this point with the way things are going so far.
Yeah, you give a team like Lander, who has very quick feet and a good ability to adjust off of errors of their own accord, extra life like that, they can come back to tremendously haunt you, as they're doing right here. Lander captures their 5th point and is making this a much closer matchup than Augusta might have wanted coming out of the gates here. And that's another aspect, too. When you crowd up the front court like that, it exposes the back court, and Lander took full advantage of that off of a block that did not deflect straight down. It deflected out, and Howard Martin, the libero, could not dive for it in time, just out of her reach, and the 6-point lands in Lander's possession. But Augusta shoots right back with their 7th on the board. They keep extending this 1-point lead out to 1 once Lander gets the momentum. Let's see if they can capture that and put a halt to this momentum swing back and forth. And let's see if Augusta can string along some points, or if Lander can muster up the strength like they did right there off of a kill. And now it is all deadlocked at 7. A kill from the near side to the far side crossed up the Augusta defense, and now Lander, Robert, is in total control.
And in that instance right there, the Jaguars didn't really have a good setup on where they were going to hit the ball, and it was basically sloppily hit right to the net, and the Jaguars lose the lead for the first time.
Now you've got Kira Ross on the serve for Lander. She was the one who brought the last kill home for Lander as well, and she is on fire with these serves, placing them in prime position for Augusta to maybe rebound once or twice and get it over, but then the offense and defense comes back to life and puts it in a place where Augusta overshoots and cannot bring the point home. And again right there, another misfire from Augusta, and now Lander, from 3 separate individual miscues by Augusta, has strung together a lead here and is migrating ahead by 3, 10-7. Lander, midcourt to the near side on a kill. That's blocked, and then just a block over, and Augusta has now inched closer, 8-10. And we've noted before, Robert, how Augusta can kind of settle a little bit under the wing, simmer, and then attack and explode and convert on consecutive points. Can they do that here?
They absolutely can, and obviously they've got to take advantage of opportunities and use their height advantage and their front court, which is one of their strengths, to their advantage, and they're able to do so there. As the Bearcats are continuing to play back in defense mode and less on the attack mode. And the Jaguars, when they have the people up on the net, they're always ready for the attack.
Well, Chloe Allen takes that point by her own accord and in charge of that as she shoots a kill down the line and secures the Jaguars' 9th point. Savannah Gonzalez on the opposite end tries for a kill, but the libero there saves the day for Lander. Now it's in Augusta's court, and now Lander has the opportunity to shoot back with a point of their own, and almost a direct hit point as it crept just inside the inbound line. Or excuse me, the refs deemed that out of bounds. It was like that foul ball that was in the wild card game the other day in baseball. It's hard to tell whether it was foul or not. That one the refs deemed out of bounds. Lander ties it up, and then they shoot right back ahead off of a kill in favor of Lander. Chloe Allen again takes charge, and Lander had a difficult time shooting it back over the net. They do so, get reset brilliantly, and Natalia Govea on the back end with a gorgeous defensive stand and beautiful placement there by Savannah Gonzalez on the tail end, realizing 2 different Lander defenders were converging on the play, and a sweet spot placement, placing it right in between their dives where no one can extend to get to that defensive dig.
It's also a game of inches. Like, if you got to hit the ball into the perfect spot for it to land. If you're even a centimeter off, the opposing team might be able to hit it up and attack back at you.
Yep. Lander's not afraid to go toe-to-toe with Augusta as they shoot a kill right down the line to secure their 12th point. And they still lead this first set by 1. Augusta is a fierce competitor, rebounding though and coming back. They do so brilliantly with a soft touch over, but Lander's there to stabilize it and get it back over in Augusta's court in hopes they make a mistake, but it's Lander who makes a mistake on the back end by not getting their hands underneath that dig enough to get it over the volleyball court, and that was brought to you by Augusta, but the mistake fell into the hands of Caitlin Krafka for Lander. And Augusta never one to say, you're in our house and we're not going to fight you till the bitter end. We are not going to die, and they are doing just that by retaking this lead here at Christenberry Fieldhouse against the number 3 in the Peach Belt Conference, the Lander Bearcats. Now, you've got Garmos with a phenomenal set there on the near wing here on the outside, but they could not capitalize and bring the tee home on the victory on that point, as that kill sails wide. And then Augusta doesn't take too lightly to that and decides to try to kill one in the middle of the court, and it works to their advantage there, Robert.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jaguars have responded well, and they're back on roll, and they have the lead right back here. And right there, the Jaguars tried to use their front court to the advantage, but it just landed a little bit out of bounds, but it's the right idea on that one.
It's the right idea, but Amari Ashley tried to penetrate the kill off of Savannah Gonzalez, but Savannah had a posterized denial there saying, not in my house, and blocked that a little bit too far wide. As it is deadlocked again at 14. Now Lander is setting up crisply for it to land in Augusta's possession, but Augusta is fighting back, and Lander has a little bit of a different strategy, but a mistake by Lander there cost him a beautiful point on the setup from their squad. They volleyed and rallied back on several different exchanges there, but one mistake places Augusta ahead by 1. But again, the fearless Lander Bearcats are not going to die. They're saying, we have come here to fight and claw, and we are going to stick around in this first set, and that is what's happening. These two teams, even though Augusta seems like to have the better front court and the more fiercer front court, the Lander Bearcats are scrappy, and they're quick, they are explosive, and they have great footwork, which is definitely helping them especially secure the lead like they did on that last point. And now they're putting a little bit of separation by a miscue from Augusta, which forces the Jags and the head coach who garnered her 400th victory here a week and a half ago against Flagler, Sharon Quarles, to call a timeout, regroup the troops, and see if they can make a valiant comeback. But for Lander, keep utilizing that speed, keep utilizing that quickness, and keep trying to throw Augusta off of their game and utilize openings, which they have done really well, Robert, in executing flawlessly to get them this 2-point advantage that they are enjoying.
Well, yeah, and the Jaguars, both teams have been able to answer back pretty well, and it's been pretty back and forth. And now it's the Jaguars' turn. They're down by 2 as they were getting things going early, but it seems as though the Bearcats have responded well to the Jaguars' front court, even though they're playing back. They seem to be able to have something figured out. Jaguars front court, even though they're playing back. They've seemed to.
And Lander comes right back out of that timeout and capitalizes brilliantly to extend this lead to 3. 18-15 is the current total on the scoreboard. How in the world Lander digged that ball out of the depths of defeat is beyond me. They did so, but Augusta was not going to be denied that point, Robert, as they executed flawlessly with a kill on the back end, and Augusta's right back in this first set matchup.
Yes, they do, and the Jaguars, they really love to aim for the lines, as is to say the end lines out of bounds. They want to get it just on the inside part for the points. That's where they like to aim when they go on the attack, and that's why this is a game of inches. And if you're Lander, you got to understand, yes, you said it, Blake,
Obviously with a kill on the back.
You did say it, they're fighting tooth and nail and are not going away. Jaguars, same thing, but if you're Lander, you want to know, even if you have a little bit of momentum here, and if you're able to take the first set, that doesn't mean anything. It did not mean anything for Emmanuel on Tuesday when they took the first set over the Jaguars. The Jaguars ended up winning 3 in a row. You can't think of it like that. You just got to keep going and fighting tooth and nail no matter what the situation.
Absolutely.
Whether you're up or down.
Thankfully, we've got a little bit of our audio technical difficulties under control. We are back in full force here. And Lander digs that out with force and shoots that back over into Augusta's side of the court. Lander comes back with a brilliant setup and a huge emphatic kill that deflects over out of bounds, and you can almost see that deflate the Jags just a little bit there. Now it's going to be again up to head coach Sharon Quarles to reacclimate this team, rebound this team, calm these ladies down, and get them back to playing Augusta volleyball the way that they have been the past month and a half.
Yeah, absolutely. The Jaguars, although early on they had a few service errors, but they have figured that out. They have been able to clean that up. At the same time, Lander's been able to answer back.
Right.
That's why they have a 3-point lead. But you know this is back and forth, and it's coming right down to the end, considering these are the second and third place teams in the conference, and they're trying to keep up with USC Aiken. And the Jaguars really need this one before they take on the Pacers here tomorrow.
Yeah, and it's two totally different squads, too. Augusta uses more of a speed and power game and a more forceful type game. Lander, they have more quickness to them. They're more scrappy, and they have the ability to have flawless transitions, flawless setups, and their execution is on point, and they are taking it to Augusta right now, to which Augusta has not been in this position many times this year. We'll see how they respond and refute the battle scars that Lander has tried to inflict. And Lander now, the libero sets it up, and they kill it over, but Lander comes right back in, and off of a block, Chloe Allen mistimes her leap just a smidge there. And the perfect placement on the kill deflects off the side of Chloe Allen's hand and ventures right into the ground on the Augusta side of the court. Now, Augusta's back, and Allen sets it up. Savannah across the court there.
Doesn't look right, just let me know.
And Lander, Krafka again is being very crafty with her selections on her kills. Augusta denies her this time, though, as they shoot within 2 points of taking control of this first set. And when Augusta feels like they have you on the back ropes and they smell blood, they can become very aggressive and very dominant, and that's one of the reasons why they've been so successful. And I think they have the Bearcats on the back of their heels right now, as there again, another deflection from the libero. Hannah McManus there deflects off of her at a cattywampus type deflection, and nobody could recover on the Lander side. And that deflection nods this first set up at 21. A back and forth set this has been indeed, Robert.
Yes, it absolutely has been. There's really no momentum on either side. Both sides answering back, going back and forth at it, like you said. And that is a beautiful job by the Bearcats right there. I mean, they've been playing back, like I said, but they float it over the net, over the defenders.
And you want to try to capitalize and try to defeat a visceral front court. That is one way to do it. Change up the strategy. Instead of kill, lethal kills into with velocity behind it. Instead of doing kills all the time, change it up a little bit. Go with a float over. Go with something that catches the front court off guard and allows them to mistime their leaps to where they can't block as efficiently as they have been. And that's throwing the front court off for Augusta. Savannah Gonzalez, Chloe Allen, Mackenzie Beck. And now they're bringing back in Blair Bolton. We haven't seen this much from Augusta. It'll be interesting to see how these ladies respond on the front court. But it's got them off kilter, and Lander, they're only trailing by 1. But there's opening for more for Lander to capitalize here.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, when a match is this back and forth, 1 point can completely change the complexion of things. It's the difference between right now a 1 point set versus a completely tied set. Or in this case, it could be a 2 point set depending on who gets the point here. Like, that's how big a momentum shift it is. And a service error ties it up.
Taya Govea, it's not been her characteristics as of early on in her career to have service errors like she has had this year. She has been working on those, but again, one caught her right there, and it affords Lander their 22nd, and then they capitalize on the possession again with their 23rd point as well. Back-to-back points lands Lander in full control of this set, in which you would think right now, with as much as these teams want this first set, Robert, that we could be looking at a set where you have to score 2 to gain victory in this first set.
Well, for that to happen, the Jaguars will have to score 2 in a row.
Right.
In order to have to score 2 in a row to win.
Absolutely.
As it's now set point, the Bearcats have scored 3 in a row since we were talking about it.
They set it up beautifully to Savannah Gonzalez, and the front court that time was caught out of position as you had Amari Ashley not securing the center of the court, instead off to the left, and the ball was smashed to the center of the court, and she could not respond in time. And a gift point for Augusta, as now what we had just talked about comes to fruition. Augusta scores back-to-back points to almost set this first set up, Robert, in a sudden death type of environment now, with you having to score 2 points to capture and gain victory in this first and battlesome set.
Well, the way this set has gone, it has to come down to this. If it doesn't, something's off.
With these two teams being only separated by 1 game in the standings, one game in the standings. Augusta is 3-1, and Lander comes calling to Christenberry with a 2-1 conference record. That is the only game that separates these two teams from second and third place. And you're seeing the fight, the grit, and the toll that a second and third team would be battling their hearts out on a volleyball court for that particular second set, because if Lander takes this matchup, they would possibly overtake Augusta here. And now Garmos settles it back. Beautiful serve, but the response was even better from Lander as they are making their mark on the Jaguars court, and they are not letting up one bit here, Robert.
Absolutely not. The Jaguars, they were facing set point, trailing by 2. They scored 2 in a row. Then Lander makes the set point again, going up by 1, and the Jaguars score 2 more in a row, and now it's set point with the Jaguars with a big opportunity here. If this is supposed to be a sign of things to come in this set or for this weekend, and this is only the first set of the first match of 2 matches the Jaguars have this weekend, how much better can it get than this? Just imagine what we'd be in for this weekend.
Well, we talked about it in the Open. Every team has improved drastically here in the Peach Ball Conference. And this goes to show you how tough, how valiantly these two teams are, and how brilliantly, too, the head coaches and the assistant coaches have recruited for both of their volleyball programs to bring in players that are not opposed to situations like this and actually thrive in scenarios like this when the heat is on, the intensity is at its finest. And with a raucous crowd here at Christenberry tonight and a back and forth affair, this is a playoff atmosphere we're experiencing in only the 4th matchup for Augusta and the 3rd one for Lander in the Peach Bowl Conference.
And how about that? The Jaguars come from behind in the end and take the set 1.
What a visceral set for both squads. They came out ready to attack, ready to do damage, and they absolutely capitalized when they saw openings and when they had to. The quickness was on firm display for Lander. Their capability to cover everyone up and to be able to kind of throw the Jags off of their game came in pivotal times to where you thought that Lander was going to take the first set, then the battle back and forth in the final couple of points there cemented it as a classic set here at Christenberry Fieldhouse, with Augusta breaking away at the tail end with 2 consecutive points to just place a clamp on that first set and saying, we own this set. You are not taking it from us. You are going to have to take it from our hands if you want to even have a shot at capturing that first set. And what a set it was.
Absolutely, and I can't wait to see what the second set will have in store, and it's got a high standard to live up to now after what we saw in set 1.
Both teams come out with their hearts, with fire in their hands, with fire in their bellies, gumption all the way around, playing to the best of their ability. You want premier Peach Ball Conference action, ladies and gentlemen, you are seeing it right here. It hardly will get any better than what we saw in set number 1, but it tends to say, well, you saw how difficult set number 1 was.
Oh yeah.
Set number 2, these two teams can top that.
And how deflating is it for Lander? I know they're going to have to move on and forget about it and keep fighting, but it has to be at least somewhat deflating to be up 24-22 and end up dropping the set.
It's a little bit of what we've talked about, though, with Augusta kind of being in control, but capitalizing and exploding when the time is right for a fierce attack, and they exploded ahead of Lander. But at those periods of time, though, too, you have not really you haven't seen a deflated Lander squad. They've come back with fire, they've come back with valiancy, and they've come back to make a statement to say, hey, if we can battle you in set number 1 like we did, stay tuned, because set number 2 and set number 3 are going to be absolutely electric. And now you've got, as we get started for set number 2, it's looking like Chloe Allen will open up the set with the serve, as Augusta, after a fierce battle, escapes the first set with a victory. Chloe Allen back to serve. Lander now up and over. Now it comes back in Augusta territory. Lander has the ball in their court now. Back over to the Augusta side. Savannah Gonzalez with a fierce kill, but an even better dig to keep the play alive. And Lander, off of that dig, capitalizes beautifully with a perfect placement on a kill to snatch the first point of the second set. And you look at it, Robert, Lander's infusing some really good strategy here.
Yeah, they're moving around quite a lot, and it might be throwing off the Jaguars a little bit in terms of where to hit the ball with the way that the Bearcats are rotating. The Jaguars move around a little bit, but not quite to the level that the Bearcats have, and they just mainly keep the 3 people up on the net.
Well, right now, the service game for the Jags is doing their due diligence and damage, as Garmos, who is a brilliant serve tactician, scores a point for the Jags there. Holland Martin with a beautiful dig out in no man's land to keep that ball alive for Augusta. And the Jaguars capitalize again with giving Lander a dose of what Lander gave the Jaguars. A little bit of miscalculation in terms of deflections and body movement, and Augusta falls in that particular point as Lander gains possession and the second point on their second set. So now we're in another tight back and forth battle here between 2 really good and really disciplined squads who excel in both games very brilliantly. Augusta in theirs exceeds tremendous expectations, and Lander in their own unique style of game, they are absolutely electric as well. In this set, as Augusta capitalizes on their 4th point, now Savannah Gonzalez is to serve. Both sets have been really conducive to a really good battle back and forth so far.
That's absolutely true. Right now the Jaguars with the edge early on here in set 2.
As you see, Boo Luther now setting it up on a tee for Augusta, and they cannot capitalize. They saw an opening off the serve, set it up gorgeously, but a little bit of a miscalculation there on the kill attempt. And Augusta now in a deadlock score. Cannot find the key to digging that ball out. As hard as Savannah Gonzalez attempted to dig that out with her heart and with her hands on the dive, she could not. So now Chloe Allen just punches it over. Somehow Lander miraculously escapes with a dig, and the ball in their possession, keeping that play on tap for Lander, but ultimately another error by Lander cost them a beautifully executed series of digs. And now, again, the score is at 5-all. But Lander comes right back again off of a beautiful executed play from Lander to secure their 6 point. Now off the serve, Augusta sets it up beautifully for the other side to Chloe Allen, but she mistimes that leap, and she cannot send it over into Bearcat territory.
And let's also keep you updated on other games around the league. In another top 4 matchup in the league, we have USC Aiken took set 1 over Georgia College, and they now lead set 2. Blake, talking about how great this match is, let's take a look at the USC Aiken-Georgia College match. That game in Georgia College in Milledgeville. It was the score to set 1 was 26-24 USC Aiken, and it's now 9-8 Pacers in set 2. That's just as close as this one.
All 4 of these teams are in a playoff atmosphere right now. They're playing playoff volleyball, and we're not even we're halfway through the season. It's incredible how much these squads have improved here in the Peach Belt Conference. And after that serve, you get a long kill attempt by Chloe Allen. It soars outside, and now Lander has to serve again, and I believe it's Krafka with the serve. They keep it alive, and Augusta is in prime position to strike. Chloe Allen does attempt to snag a point there, but it's the opposition in Lander who scouted that beautifully, dug it up, and set that set on a tee for the kill to come home to tack on their 10th point, leading by 4, 10-6. Augusta with good blocks on the front court there ushers in their 7th point. It is 10-7 with a dangerous Natalia Govea at the serve. And we've talked about in the past how brilliantly she serves with beautiful space to get set, get power behind that serve, and see if she can do damage. But now it's on Martin's control on the back end. The libero saves it, goes back over to Lander. Augusta, Govea again with a spectacular dig. Augusta sets it cross court up for Savannah to bring it on home. No dice though, as that point ends in an error for Lander. It's sad to see a play like that end in that type of miscue, as both teams were brilliantly battling back and forth, parlaying the volleyball one side to the other. Now back in Augusta's side of the court. A beautiful dig there by Govea, by Beck, who dove for the dig. Had good arm under it, sent it over into the Bearcat territory, but it was a present for the Bearcats as it sailed out of bounds. And Lander, once they get a gift point, they are quick to capitalize. That's their 11th and 12th point, and now that amps up a timeout call from head coach Sharon Quarles, again to try to rally the troops.
Well, the rally worked in the first set, so we'll see what happens here, although I'm pretty sure this is the Jaguars' largest deficit they've faced so far in 4. Still a long way to go here in set 2. And with this being set two, it's the most important set of every volleyball match.
Absolutely it is, because it's also it's a turning point set too, because as you know, you go to 3 sets and you go first to 3, and then you go from there. So this is a swing set, in a sense that if Lander capitalize and does capture their first set, we're back at square one. If Augusta prevails here and goes up 2-0, jeopardy is amongst the Bearcats to try to rebound and try to execute flawlessly to skillfully capture 2 consecutive sets. Lander now on the call. Shoots it back over. McKenzie back over to Lander's side of the court now. Patrolling the front court and the back court beautifully is Lander. And the read there was pivotal for Lander, as that read came from Caitlin Krafka. She's been pivotal in this Lander rally, as again Lander is taking it to the Jags now in a 6-point spread. Robert, I don't think we've had a chance to see the Jags this far down in quite some time, and it seems that they're off their game just enough for Lander to come in and say, we own this setup until this point.
Well, yeah, they have to.
And the Jags have not been able to get their bearings about them after securing their 8th point. It's been a consecutive run here for Lander, in which we were talking about Augusta going on runs, but Lander has seized the day, taking control, and they have not let the foot off the pedal and the hand off the jugular, and keep pressing the Jags into predicaments that they cannot prevail in.
This time the Jaguars do prevail by hitting it right to the front corner. Spike.
Perfect.
Right in front of the net.
That was a good placement there, though, too, because not only did Bolton kill it, but she put it in a spot to where the deflection would only deflect down instead of out of bounds, and it deflected down into Bearcat territory. Now Lander has responded beautifully, as it would be so in a back and forth affair. Up until that final surge to this point by Lander, it has been a beautiful display of gladiators here in a tough physical battle, but Lander seems to, right now, when Augusta has momentum, they seem to quickly seize on that, turn it back, and they can surge in a given instant. So Augusta has to be more careful to this point not to mess up and execute flawlessly, which is opening them up more to not necessarily say failures on execution, but they're not executing to where they want to be executing, at the level they want to be executing at. And the Bearcats are capitalizing with force. Like you saw right there, Natalia Govea and Holland Martin had a 4-7 split right there. Martin on one side, Natalia on the other. Miscommunication. They both went for the ball. No one decided to go full throttle for the ball, and the ball sailed off the kill right in between Martin and Govea. So now Savannah shoots a very good serve over to the Lander side of the court. So low line drive, which all she could do off of the deflection was to deflect it sideways and not up, to where no one could have the time to get under that to keep the play alive, but they come right back again. Martin was caught a little bit flat-footed there, Robert, and it cost her. Instead of being on the balls of her heel, she was flat-footed, and the point discrepancy for the Jags continues to amount 19-13.
And the hill that they're going to have to climb is getting steeper and steeper as that continues to happen, Blake. And you can tell the Bearcats are really feeling it, both the players on the floor and on the bench. And on that same note,
this is a pivotal time. This is a pivotal timeout, and you don't see this often from a Jags perspective, because you don't see the head coach Sharon Quarles almost kind of forced to take a timeout here. In the past, she's been able to pick and choose when she has taken the timeouts, even when the Jags have been down. This is kind of uncharted territory, at least at Christenberry Fieldhouse on their home court this year. And the Bearcats have come to play. They have not relented at all, and it's a tribute to how well they're coached and how their team chemistry is. But my question to you is, can the Jags settle back down, revert back to their style of game, and get the discombobulations out of the water and just soar to a comeback here?
Well, they did come back in set one, but it was not nearly this much of a deficit, although they have slightly more time than they did in set one. But it's got to start now, and that's why Sharon Quarles took the timeout at this point. So yeah, they got to, and they can, but it's not going to be easy, and they're facing their largest deficit of the set right now.
Right.
And it's getting larger and larger gradually as the set is going on, as Lander's really been feeling it.
Well, you're also seeing physical errors and mental errors from the Jags, which the mental errors you haven't really seen from the Jaguars up until this point, at least at home. Physical errors, yes, but they have been able to overcome those. The mental errors is where it haunts you the most, but the physical errors from the Jags, they have not been able to counteract those and overtake them to make this second set a contest as of yet, down by 6. And Lander keeps pouring on the gasoline to the fire here, and they're up by a cool, calm, collective, and relentless 7 points. You can tell the wheels are turning on the side of the Bearcats and how much they want it, with crisp transitions, fiery kills like you just saw right there to collect their 22nd point. And Lander is cooking with Crisco right now as we speak, Robert.
Now a 9-point set as they are just continuing to roll. And head coach Ashley White loves what she's seeing.
Yeah, the Jags are all out of sorts right now, all out of Kalak, and to even be able to have a say in the set, they've got to get their bearings back very quick here. Down to just a 2-point set 2 overtake by Lander. Lander 23. The Jags accumulate on the point total of 15 thus far. Holland Martin does her darndest to try to dig that ball out just beyond her reach out of a diving, controlled try for the dig. And now the Jags are on their last leg here in this set, trying to come back 1 point away from a set defeat. Lander sets it up, and the block was executed brilliantly by Chloe Allen. The only thing wrong with that, the force was so visceral off that block that it shot the block out of bounds, and Lander capitalizes and says the second set is ours. We are taking this game back to square one in a third set. And you think we're done now? No. We're coming into hostile territory, in Christenberry Fieldhouse and fighting till the bitter end against an Augusta Jaguars team who is one of the best teams in the conference. This has been a brilliant game from both sides to this point in the matchup.
Absolutely, and now you just got to reset and do it all over again. And now from this point forward, it's a best-of-3 match with it tied at 1.
Absolutely, and both teams, given different styles of games they play, are very disciplined in their attack, their defense, and their execution. And this has just been a joy to witness as a volleyball fan and as a sports fan in general. When two teams are going at it like this, the fans win.
Absolutely. This is a good turnout and one of the loudest nights in this place and for a volleyball match we've seen this year as well.
In such a crucial game as well as we talk about the matchup being second and third place, with these two teams only separated by a game in the Peach Belt Conference. Augusta is ahead in the win column right now. 3 wins to Landers, 2 wins in the conference play. But Lander is playing like they have owned this game thus far, and they are not going down without a fight. They came in here arguably with the most to gain out of it, and they are playing like a top contender would, battling in a playoff atmosphere. It's just electric here at Christenberry Fieldhouse, as we will take you to a break before we start the third set. Here in Augusta, Lander and the Jags of Augusta University are deadlocked at a set apiece. On the flip side, we will have set number 3. So as we talked in the opening of the second set, how crucial and how much of a pendulum swing the second set could be. And that is the case, as now all knotted up at 1 set apiece. These two Peach Belt Conference elite squads go toe to toe on the volleyball court in the third set. Lander gives it over to Holland, who digs it out. Oh, and a beautiful attempt at a dig right there from Lander, but they could not capitalize with the straight-up dig. Instead, it deflected sideways and went out of bounds. Can't falter for the execution on that, just how the deflections fly in volleyball. And now, as the second point is accumulated by Augusta off of a touchover that goes too far up to the outside. And now, with the Garmo serve, that is ahead of us. Augusta will try to spur out to a three-point advantage, but Lander has something else to say about it, but no! The front court comes back and denies Lander their first point with a beautifully executed block as I turn play-by-play over for the third and a fourth set to my broadcast comrade, Robert.
Thank you, Blake. That was an exciting first two sets, as we already discussed. So after Lander takes set two, they have suddenly ran into a very angry Jaguars squad. They themselves, Lander has angered the Jaguars, and it's coming back to haunt them, although it's still early here in set three. And the Jaguars now lead at 5-0.
Well, right now, you saw the Jaguars kind of defeated a little bit coming out of the second set. They started to turn it around toward the end of it, but ultimately they couldn't come back and press the issue enough to come back in that second set as they fell drastically. But here, this is the Jaguars team that we are accustomed to seeing. Lights out, driven. They will not be denied here. This team that we're seeing this set will not be denied. And that right there is going to be extremely difficult competition with the heart and the force that Augusta has at their disposal for Lander to deal with in the forthcoming sets.
And they get their first points here at 6-1, so Savannah Gonzalez will be back to serve it for the Jaguars. And what a play. Wow, Sharik Brian Garmos, the 5'5" junior transfer from Puerto Rico, just floats it over for a point, and there was nothing that the Bearcats could have done about that one.
Never let anyone tell you that in volleyball you cannot scout out anything and you cannot decoy a defense with eye movement. That was brilliant all the way around. Garmo scouted that out brilliantly as it was over in the Bearcat side of the court. She saw the opening. All she needed was the ball at the right time to execute, and just a little flip punch over there, and it falls right into the open area. But she used her eyes to move the defenders and also scouting to find the opening before the ball even got back into the Augusta side of the court for her to even do damage. That was a phenomenal play by a really good defensive setter and also a very good tactician in Sharif Bryant Garmos.
Absolutely, and she totally did her homework before hitting that one over. It was just a two-hand tap over, but it was executed absolutely beautifully. So Gonzalez will serve it for the Jaguars off the timeout, leading 7-1 here in set three.
I mean, with that beautiful play by Sharik, it's going to be difficult to see how Lander can respond. But just as I say that, goodness gracious, that timeout did them wonders as they come out with lightning in their shoes.
Yes, they absolutely did. 7-2 now the score. It'll be Bearcats serve. Libero Holland McManus will serve it. The Bearcats have only two players that are not from the states of Florida or South Carolina. They have one player from Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and another from Kyle, Texas. Otherwise, it's pretty much local talent from Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, and they also have one player from Charlotte, so I stand corrected there. And the Jaguars have players from pretty much all over the place. From Puerto Rico, Brazil, Arizona, you name it, Blake.
But let's not undersell that either, because yeah, head coach Sharon Quarles has been able to scout players, recruit players from all across the United States and the world. But it just goes to show you how good in a particular area talent can be able to not extend your reach that far out and to recruit this much talent at a high intensity like atmosphere and play in this type of atmosphere. And let's not forget, not be moved, stand in the face of fear, and completely overtake the situation and call it your own, like the Lander Bearcats have, especially in the first set and a little bit in that second set. But they have done a really good job, and that's all due partially to the chemistry of this team, but in a large part due to the recruitment out of where you were talking about by the head coach.
Right now it's 9-4. Jaguars on top. Jaguars also, they're not afraid to go for JC transfers, players out of high school, you name it as well. That's another thing. The Bearcats have only one senior on their roster. Otherwise, a bunch of freshmen, sophomore, and juniors.
If you remember how last year's Augusta Jaguars team was,
0 seniors whatsoever.
Lander is almost is in a similar position to where the Jags were last year, where they are this year for the Bearcats.
Think about how good Lander is right now.
Yeah.
They're a very good team. How much better can they be next year?
You've got a prime example of how good they can be with the opponents in the Jaguars this year. The Jags are looking to go for a championship. They're that good and that talented. Give Lander, if not this year, a year to reflect, a year to gain chemistry, a year to build an extremely flawless game plan, and they execute that game plan like Augusta does brilliantly, they will be a tremendous force in this Peach Belt Conference for years and years to come.
Absolutely. Look out. That's going to say a lot of bounds, and Lander's battling their way back into this one. It's 10-7.
And just by this game right now, these two teams will be in a fiery chase to the playoffs. And we mentioned that the final game is played in Greenwood at Lander's home court of the season. It could have major implications, but man, oh man, this is a playoff game with two teams battling so close together, back to back, like these two squads are. You can't get any better than this.
Tomorrow's match will have a lot of high standards as well, as the Jaguars take on the first place Pacers of USC Aiken, who are battling Georgia College tonight.
That is why this weekend is so pivotal for the Jaguars to make a statement, to make a stand, and to say, hey, look, you guys may be 3, and you guys may be Lander, you might have the 3rd position in the Peach Belt Conference, and USC Aiken, you might be number 1, and you very well may be the best team in the Peach Belt Conference on paper. But that's why you play the game, and that's also why the Jaguars are saying, look, we have you in our sights, and we're coming for it. We're coming to take you down, and we're coming to take what was ours from last year. This Jaguars team is focused. They are highly driven, highly motivated, and the team chemistry is what's driving this team as well as flawless execution, and that's a dangerous thing. That is an extremely dangerous thing. So for them to make a really good stand here this weekend would say a tremendous lot going forward into how the Peach Belt Conference may shape out.
Right now it's 13-9 Jaguars, and a lot of that will factor into tonight's match as well as the outcome tomorrow to determine potentially first place. The best case scenario for the Jaguars, if they sweep this weekend, they'll be tied with the Pacers for first place. USC Aiken, as I did mention, they are in action right now as well. We'll check on that one and give you a score update as soon as we can. Jaguars up 13-10. And that match is also tied at 1. Georgia College winning set 2, 25-23. The Pacers won set 1, 26-24. That's even more back and forth than this one is so far.
Well, right now, you want to talk about a team that has a iron heart and a will to compete and will not say die. This Lander team is complete with vigor, tenacity, intensity, and when they're down, they are certainly not out of it, and they are fighting back with everything that they have, and they have made this third set a contest when it earlier was clear that Augusta was in the driver's seat, but now it's looking like Lander has turned the tides and now has a little bit more control in this set than Augusta does. So you can see the tide starting to turn a little bit in live action in the midst of what in the midst of what we're talking about. And Lander has a pretty good chance of overtaking Augusta in this set, because right now Augusta is reverting back to where they were last set, and they're all over the place right now. They want to get back left and centered and play solid volleyball, but Lander is not allowing Augusta to do that at all right now.
They've cut it to 1 as they're doing a good job defending the Jaguars' attack. And if they can keep it rolling like they did in set 2, it showed the way they rolled in set 2 that once they get going, they're pretty hard to stop, and we're tied at 14.
You can feel how much Lander wants this game. You can literally feel it within the walls of the field house right now.
Absolutely.
They are on fire. Every play, every setup, every transition has a meaning to bury the point and capitalize on that particular point. They are playing with fierceness, and they are absolutely collapsing the best qualities that Augusta displayed coming into this game. They are taking Augusta completely out of their game, and they are scrambling right now.
They are, and the Jaguars now have to take a much-needed timeout, Blake, as you might imagine. Now trailing for the first time in this set. The Jaguars got off to a great start here in set 3, and Lander has battled right back. This is a good, very well-coached team by Ashley White, or the Bearcats. And yeah, with longevity, Blake, like you said, this is a young team, and they can be good for a long time, and they can be a lot better next year as well, with a lot of people projected to be back next year. Absolutely.
I mean, you've got a core of seniors that are leading the Jaguar squad, but once these seniors leave, it will be up to the juniors and sophomores to take their place as leaders. Step up, lead this team, because you've got great talent here in Augusta in volleyball. I mean, Sharon Quarles and Khadijah Dickens has done a phenomenal, Khadijah Fornau has done a phenomenal job at recruiting. And Augusta's set up just like Lander is for years to come to be a formidable and tough force to deal with in the Peach Belt Conference. But it all comes down, again, to the leadership that steps up once Beck, Govea, Gonzalez, Bolton, and the seniors leave.
That's a lot of talent to replace for next year, but for a team like the Jaguars, like they didn't have any seniors last year, they were a young team, and they still have some young players this year that returned from last year that can similarly step up as well. Jaguars trailing at 16-14, and that one just landed out of bounds. We had to wait a moment for a delayed ruling on that one. It's a point for the Jaguars. It's 16-15.
That might have been the tide turning point too, because that was a pivotal read, because it was only a fraction of an inch to be able to read that to tell whether it was going out of bounds or inbounds. Govea read it right, but it was so close it could have gone either way, and that could have turned the tide of this matchup.
The tide of this matchup has turned quite a lot. Here, 17-15, Lander, Jaguars move on the attack, and it was hard hit, and it took a couple lucky ricochets if you're the Bearcats there. And we see another one. And the Bearcats get the point.
You know what? That was all started by an indirect dig. The outside defensive setter dug it out. That was an adequate dig that she directed back to the defenseman in front court, and then the dig by the libero on the back end. Just a phenomenal executed play all the way around, and Lander keeps patrolling the lead here, not letting off the gas at all.
And it's 19-15 Lander. They are feeling it just like they were a set ago. And now several of their bench players are raising up and down on the bench, really absolutely ecstatic about what they're seeing.
You can tell the heart and the passion that all these ladies on the court, whether it be in rotation on the bench to come in or on the court playing right now, all the heart and the passion these ladies have playing this beautiful game. It is electric here, and the fans are feeding off of it.
It's a good crowd and a very loud volleyball atmosphere. Perhaps a precursor to basketball season in that regard. Diving dig saved by Savannah Gonzalez. That gets it over. And the Jaguars, and it goes back, goes off her hands, and then off of the hands of a diving libero Holland Martin and out of bounds. And it's 20-15 Landers. They're about to take the lead in this match. 2-1 here in set 3. They're trying to close this one out. The one thing they were unable to do in set 1, they were able to do it with ease in set 2. And are looking to do it again here in set 3. But the Jaguars, Blake, they've got something to say about that.
Yeah, Chloe Allen took charge right there, but that was set up brilliantly. That was all from the setup position. If that setup wouldn't have been at the time and at the right point for Chloe to attack, that wouldn't have been as emphatic as a kill as that was. That was brilliantly done. That was phenomenally executed, and the Jags are right back in this affair.
And the ball is getting floated over back and forth. And that's a cross-court attack, and it goes out of bounds, and Lander gets a point. They had basically the entire floor covered there. It's 21.
You had a small opening there on the near side, or on the far side over there, but then you had a huge gaping opening here on the near side. Jags with the right decision, just a little long in the execution game to deliver Lander their 20th point, only 5 points away from taking from securing a 2-set-to-1 victory.
20-18 is the score. As they're in a timeout now. It's interesting, Blake. You see both teams do things a little differently at timeout. The Jaguars huddle around in a group, and the Bearcats do more of a lineup when they're in their timeout discussions, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, it's different philosophies, different styles coming from two different schools. We talked about how different these two teams are, but they're very disciplined. They're very passionate, and they don't inflict many miscues or errors upon themselves. And coming from the head coaches, that's a lot of where this game is. In the fine line of execution, you could not have asked for a better executed game from both teams.
No chance.
Tonight.
21-18. Lander. Jaguars play again tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Not a lot of time to rest or celebrate.
Not at all. And let's not forget that Lander's playing like a second place team where the Jags are. They're in third place. You think this competition is stiff and good? Think about how the first place Pacers are going to play in Christenberry tomorrow.
It's going to be an intense one. Last season, these two teams met on Senior Day, the last regular season match of the year. The Jaguars took the first 2 sets of that match here at the Chris a season ago. The match was on Veterans Day, by the way.
Right.
The Pacers rallied and won 3 sets in a row to win the match.
Another good read. There was not a lot of time to wrap around that volleyball to get set to dig that out, but a good read nonetheless because it just had enough length to sail long for the Bearcats. Now, although that was a miscue, and you haven't seen many of them by Lander, that was one right there to draw the Jags within striking distance of trailing by 3 points. But still, in the finest of orchestrated strategies and in execution, this has been phenomenal.
24-20 set point here for Lander. They put the Jaguars facing a set point position in all 3 sets so far. The Jaguars overcame that once, and now they are a step closer to overcoming that here as they get a point.
Well, right there, the front court just drives home the 21st point, saying we don't necessarily want to have any stress on our defense to take part in that play. We're just going to take charge here, take control, and dish out our 21st point. And Lander, you can't stop us.
And another point for the Bearcats, and they take set 3. And as we get set for set 4 coming up, it's match set for the Jaguars.
So think about this, though. You're Lander, right? And you just come off a demoralizing second set defeat. Augusta kind of ran away with that second set. You weren't playing like you are accustomed to playing in the intensity games that is the Peach Belt Conference. So you come out firing on all cylinders in the first set. You kind of fall back a little bit on the second set, where that may actually demoralize teams to the brink of not being able to put up any more fight. But this Lander team is a different animal. What do they do? What do they do? The Bearcats come back. They scratch, they claw, they hit with fire, they hit with velocity, speed, and very good discipline. That discipline helped them to stay afloat, not be out, and come back with a lethal charge. And now, look where they are, up 2-1.
The Jaguars came back with a lethal charge a set ago.
Absolutely.
At the start, got to an outstanding start, and somehow Lander was able to roar back and absolutely cruise to another set victory.
This Lander team has built a mentality around themselves like the 91 Braves had built, in a sense that if you're down, I'll be darned if you are going to defeat us without us giving you 1,200%, a run for your money. And they have a mindset of almost like it's, we're going to leave this volleyball court dead to be able to defeat us. That's that type of mentality, and it's serving them very well, because we touched on this. It's a completely different styles we're seeing between two elite teams. And Lander has come back on fire and is in the driver's seat now in this matchup.
Absolutely, and Jaguars looking to force a deciding 5th set, at which point, if they're able to do that, this match will become a sprint as opposed to a marathon, which, as the 5th set is 1st to 15 as opposed to 1st to 25. So that's the Jaguars' focus right now, is just bounce back and set a 5th set. But as they learned, getting off to a fast start and taking all anger out early on hasn't worked.
No, it hasn't. So with that, we talk about baseball all the time being a game of adjustments, right?
Yes.
From every standpoint in a baseball game, you're making some type of adjustment, whether it's on the mound, whether it's on the diamond. Same thing here. Every play, you're constantly making adjustments as to adjust your game to make it better, or adjustments to out-strategize the opponent and create havoc for the other team to execute, or garner points off of their executions or mental mistakes. So it's always an adjustment game here as well in times like this. And with this intensity going back and forth, these adjustments are happening at a frame rate second here, and it's paying off for Lander and sometimes Augusta as well. But Lander right now is not backing down, and they're 2 points in this fourth and they hope deciding set.
They're picking up right where they left off, up 2-0 here in set 4. Beck taps it over, and that puts the Bearcats on the attack. It's up in the air.
But think about that. That's 2 different velocities that you have to prepare for and that you don't know is coming. First, a tap over. That's like a changeup, all right? You go for a changeup,
yes,
and then you get a 90 to 99 mile-an-hour fastball on a heat-seeking kill. That is hard to adjust for, especially when you're surprised and are not ready for it.
It's supposed to throw off the defense.
Absolutely. And as you saw Holland Martin there try to do the best she could, but there's not much you can do in a situation like that. When you're that out of position. How in the world did Garmos keep that dig alive for the Jags? She got that arm underneath that volleyball at the last split second, and with a prayer of a chance, kept the Jags' hope for securing their second point alive, but Lander is just too much right now.
It's 4-1 in favor of Lander. Now 4-2, the Jaguars get a point. They're using Savannah Gonzalez to serve a lot here in this one. As she's normally one of the players that the Jaguars like to have on the net, but she's spent a lot more time serving here today. She is a 6'1" senior. And that one lands in. That's a point for the Jaguars, so it's now 4-3.
That deflected off of 3 different Lander defenders, and neither defender was ready for the deflection to come their way.
And where does that one land? Out of bounds, Jaguar point. We are tied at 4, 3 straight for the Jaguars.
So now you're starting to see Lander kind of succumb to some physical mistakes. And Augusta, with that shark-like mentality that they have, when they smell blood, they capitalize on it, and they are shooting out of the gates here after a deadlock score like a house of fire. 3 consecutive points, and they're in the lead by 1.
And Lander answers back and ties this one up at 5. Boo Luther will be back to serve with a chorus of boos here in the arena, chanting her name. It's the one time, Blake, where a boo is a good thing.
Yeah, and well, here's the thing too. You think that, and then there's also names like Luke and a couple of other names where you think the crowd is booing their team, but they're chanting their name. And well, I mean, let's put, all right, for example, Luke Voigt of your Yankees.
Yeah.
You think the way that the crowd says it, they're booing him, but they're actually chanting his name. Same thing here. Her name is Boo Luther. They're chanting her name instead of boo, and it helped them out tremendously because she helped them gain a point.
Absolutely did. Lander now with a 7-6 lead here in set 4. Another example is Kevin Youkilis, a former Red Sox.
Absolutely.
Fenway faithful used to say "Uke" a lot.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And it would always sound like they were booing their own team whenever he came up. But that was not the case. Jaguars on the attack, and they get the point. Tied at 7.
Holland Martin with a beautiful dig reset that play for the Jags. That stabilizing dig kind of reset the Jags' feet, reset everything, and then right after that they attacked beautifully coming out. And that was just a brilliant dig from a all-around libero that the Jags have in Holland Martin.
8-7 Lander back on top. Jaguars struggling to pull ahead here. And they get the serve across. Lander brought a good visiting crowd here in this one. They lead at 9-7, and that has definitely played a factor here in this one.
Absolutely. We've mentioned it. We mentioned it time and time again. But these are the games that make you want to get fired up as well. When you're in this type of atmosphere, in a playoff type of atmosphere, in the middle of your season, this cannot get any better than this for the players because it prepares them for the atmospheres they will be facing once they get, or if they get into playoff contention. So this is critical to help them adjust to the intensity of those frames, the intensity of the crowds, and just the intensity of the moments, as you're seeing here.
It's now 10-8. Lander, this just in, USC Aiken has taken set 3 against Georgia College. They now lead it 2-1. Set 4 about to begin over in Milledgeville. And Flagler, the Saints have defeated the Braves of UNC Pembroke in 5 sets, 3-2.
Yeah, the Braves continue to falter, have not garnered a win in Peach Belt Conference play as of yet. They look to get back on track, securing their first win, but they just fell short. He just fell a little bit short tonight against Flagler.
10-9. Bearcats, Chloe Allen serves it over. That one's going to sail and land in. Natalia Gouveia thought it was going to go out, but it lands just in. as this game of inches continues. It's 11-9 Lander.
Good crisp set from the front court to the outside attacker, and threw Lander off their game. And with Beck on the attack, it's hard to corral your defense and set up for your offense.
And that one lands in on the spike, and the Jaguars have tied it at 11.
So you get a kill, and then your meet, not even from me to you, with a block, and that block comes right back at you and past you. That's what happened on that play.
It's hard to react to.
Exactly. And that's something that Augusta took full advantage of Lander on right there, because Lander had a beautiful kill set up, but the blocking ability and the lethal blocking ability of Augusta prevailed right there, and Lander did not have a response for that.
Jaguars are a team that likes to hit it hard when they're on the attack. Most notably if they get the ball to Mackenzie Beck, who's probably one of the harder hitters on the team. Also, Natalia Govan hits it hard, especially on the serves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
13-11, Jaguars on a little bit of a run here, trying to force a deciding fifth set. And Blake, I see no reason why there shouldn't be a fifth set with the way this game is being played. Govan mishandles that one.
You would think that would be the only justice for a game like this would be a fifth set.
Absolutely.
But if the Bearcats have anything to say about it, and we've seen that tenacity prevail in this matchup before, they're not going to let this get to a fifth set.
And it's tied at 13.
But that's the fight that Augusta is in right now. They have got to fight and prevail above a fierce competitor, fighting for positioning and fighting with great intensity in this game. Like we said earlier, Lander has come into Christenberry and, with the exception of one set, owned this court. And that is really tough to do against a Jags team that is phenomenal in every aspect of volleyball.
It was the exception of the end of that one set.
Yeah, absolutely. And now, when your back is against the wall, how do you respond? And Augusta's fighting, setting everything up well, executing holds like you just saw there with Beck. Not necessarily a kill, but kind of a two-hand mosey over into an excellent hole that she found. So they're fighting, but that they're fighting against a really exquisitely built and exquisitely coached team in Lander.
Tied at 15 is, Coach Ashley White, assisted by Alex Pedock. What a job they've done with the Bearcats. Coach Pedock is just as animated and just as into it as Coach White is.
Right, and now you look at it though, the leaders in the Augusta camp are starting to rise up and take advantage. You saw Beck with a key kill right there, dishing it out to Lander. But there again, as quick as she was on the attack, her defense lets the Jags down right there. But it's going to take more leadership like that to step up for the Jags and say, hey, we're taking this game over, and we are not taking our foot off the gas pedal one bit.
Gas pedal's been on full throttle since this one started and will remain on full throttle throughout the season.
Absolutely. And we'll tomorrow's going to be an even bigger test for the Jags. But Lander has come in and shown that they are one of the fiercest and toughest teams in this conference, and they are not to be reckoned with.
The Jaguars will play Lander again on November the 3rd to close out the regular season. That matchup will be at Lander's campus in Greenwood, South Carolina. That place is also going to be the host of the following week's Peach Belt Conference Tournament, November 10th and 11th. So the Jaguars hope that when they go to Lander at the end of the season, that they'll be able to return to that same gym the following weekend.
And we've talked about it too before. Augusta had a chance to scout Lander earlier this year in a tournament that I believe it was the first one on the second day that Lander came in and played. On the first tournament, the Jaguar Rumble tournament, the Jags have hosted 2 tournaments, and they played like 8-9 games.
Yes, they have. That was most of their non-conference was all those tournaments.
Right. So they had a chance. The point is they had a chance to scout Lander in on a Sunday in one of those tournaments. Now, there were some that were here watching it, and there were some that were not. That could be a missed opportunity, because you get a chance to see some of the game plan that your opposition comes in here with. And let's face it, it is a game plan catered to the abilities of Lander that they have excelled in. And with this highly profitable team right now, especially on the fundamentals of volleyball, it could have done Augusta a lot of justice to scout that game and come up with a matchup game plan to circumvent the scenario that they're in right now.
Well, it's been a difficult one.
Absolutely.
19-16, Lander, that sails out of bounds. A service error on the Bearcats, and the Jaguars now trail 19-17. Govea will check back in.
But you think this is intense. If we get to a 5th and decisive set,
like I said earlier, it'll be a sprint as opposed to a marathon, and a sprint can be a lot more intense than a marathon.
Intensity personified. 15 points. Virtually a fight to the death, and virtually one team inadvertently will say I quit, with which both teams have no desire to do.
Absolutely not. That's a point for the Jaguars on a hard hit spike. 20-18 now as the score. Lander is on top. They'll send Chloe Allen back to serve it. Comparing a 5th set to an earlier set in volleyball, it's like comparing the regular season of college football to the MLB regular season.
Yeah, absolutely. It's incredibly 2 different mindsets, 2 different feels, and highly anticipated when you get down to do or dies like a 5th set is.
Oh, yeah. 21-18. Lander, they are 4 points away from a huge victory over the Jaguars here at the Chris. And a service error gives the Jaguars a point. And that's helped the Jaguars stay a little closer. As Shuri Ryan Garmos will serve it for Augusta. She gets it over.
And you kind of get the feeling that Augusta can see a 5th set going.
Oh, yeah.
As they have a little bit more pep in their step right now, especially in the read department and the intangible aspect of volleyball. And right now, we got another tight set here. It's 22 to 20, but Lord have mercy, this has been a phenomenal game.
Yes, it has been. We see the Jaguars, we say Beck diving for it and nearly a head-on collision with one of her teammates. That was a pretty dangerous situation there. Jaguars floating it over, they get it across, and the point. Credited to Savannah Gonzalez.
Savannah took it. Savannah says, hey, you want to challenge me? Well, how about a relentless assault on the front court? And she got the height advantage on that and dropped it in and took charge in the front court and never looked back.
Up in the air, Beck with the float over, and a beautiful one it was. We're tied at 22. And the Bearcats will take a timeout.
This right here, we mentioned this, or we kind of mentioned this a little bit, but these type of games right here is why tournament play at the beginning of the year is so important.
Absolutely.
Because it gets your teams in crisp, tip-top form and well-conditioned to play games that are mentally draining, physically draining, absolutely wall-to-wall, all over the place with comebacks, with fierceness, with digs where we don't know how the heck some of these balls have been dug out, with everything that you would want in a back and forth, gladiator to gladiator, mono on mono tight matchup between a second and third place team. That conditioning aspect of it from a stamina standpoint is driving this fierce competition that we're seeing.
Gonzalez floats it over. And it's up in the air. And hit back and forth. Jaguars trying to take the lead for the first time in a while. Here's what's at stake. If the Bearcats win this set, they win the match. If the Jaguars win this set, we play a deciding fifth set.
Martin and Savannah Gonzalez. With a beautiful and breathtaking dig that I don't know where they dug that ball out of the depths of defeat from. But Lander now has the decisive point in their grasp.
And Lander takes the match, stunning the Jaguars 3-1 here at the Chris.
And the Jags were not ready for that last point, but these two teams will meet again, and they're on a collision course for another affair like this. This, from both squads, in a hostile environment, played really well. Lander outplayed Augusta, but with Lander coming in here and owning this court on a hostile visitors court says a lot about this team, where they're going, where their drive is, where their fight and their vigor is, and how well coached this team is. For Augusta, it's reboot, rebound. We've got maybe 15 hours, something like that, before the Aiken game starts at 2 tomorrow. So
yes.
From that standpoint, regroup, go home. Don't think about this game. Mentally prepare yourself for the war ahead with Aiken.
Absolutely, and it is going to be a war. It's not just a border war between these two teams. Tomorrow, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap things up, and we'll update you on what else is going on around the Peach Belt Conference as well.
One more thing. Augusta did things very well tonight. Executed well. They had points to where the execution was not on as much of a point as they wanted to, but they did things brilliantly well. Setups, execution, transitional play like they usually do. Lander was just a little bit better tonight and wanted it a little bit more.
And now Lander doing, I guess, a post-game stretch out on the floor right now. Nonetheless, like I said, we'll be back, and we'll come back and wrap things up, and we'll give you a more in-depth preview of tomorrow's match between the Jaguars and the Pacers, and give you the final update on what else is going on around the Peach Belt Conference here tonight, and a preview of all the matchups tomorrow as well. This has been a special presentation of the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. Stay tuned. Welcome back here to Christenberry Fieldhouse as this match has gone final. The Lander Bearcats stunning the Jaguars 3-1. The Jaguars took the first set in what was a very outstanding played set, and the Bearcats respond and win 3 sets in a row to take the match, the opposite of the way Tuesday's match went between the Jaguars and Emmanuel, as the Jaguars in that match dropped the first set and won 3 in a row to win 3-1. Let's take a quick look, Blake, at what else happens around the Peach Belt Conference here today. Once again, the final score here from the Chris, the Bearcats 3 and the Jaguars 1. Flagler defeated UNC Pembroke in 5 sets, 3-2 earlier today. That match started an hour before this one did. And also what is going on in Milledgeville between Georgia College and USC Aiken. The Pacers took the first set 26-24. Georgia College took set 2, 25-23, and then USC Aiken rolled in set 3, and USC Aiken is leading set 4, 14-11. That's a very outstanding set, and right now, obviously, all the Jaguars are thinking of is the Pacers tomorrow at 2 p.m., and not a lot of time to rest or mourn this loss at all. Actually, no time at all, really.
Right.
And the Pacers aren't thinking about the Jaguars at all right now. They're thinking about trying to close out their match with Georgia College. And they got a lot of traveling going on as they're in Milledgeville tonight, and they'll be here in Augusta tomorrow. It'll be a busy weekend of traveling in addition to playing for the Pacers and the Jaguars. Also a busy weekend as they play the top 2 teams in the conference. They fall to the Bearcats here tonight, and then they take on the Pacers tomorrow to wrap up the weekend. We'll take a quick break, and we're going to come back, wrap things up, and preview tomorrow's set here on the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. We'll be back. All right. We are back here at Christenberry Fieldhouse to wrap things up. Once again, the Bearcats defeating the Jaguars 3-1. I'm Robert Ambrose with Blake Collins. And Blake, what were your final thoughts overall on this set? And also, what do you expect tomorrow based on what you saw today?
Augusta came in and they really wanted this game, but Lander wanted it that much more. And from the Augusta side of things, this is a brutal 2-day stretch. You just lost to number 3, and then not even 15 hours later you have to mentally prepare for number 1, which means forget about tonight. Forget about tonight. It happened. Don't reflect on it at all. Focus purely on your efforts for tomorrow's game against the top team in the conference that will be on your court. And that is where the core leadership of the Jags will step up in a major way to get these girls rebounded and refocused after a excruciating loss like tonight is, to get them rebounded and ready to cook on all cylinders against a pivotal game against Aiken tomorrow. But that is where the leadership for the Jags and the senior core leadership will step up in a major, major way to prepare them for tomorrow.
And that has to happen. It's pretty much imperative at this point. And last season, these two teams met on Veterans Day here at Christenberry Fieldhouse.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned this earlier. It was senior day, even though the Jaguars didn't have any seniors on their roster.
Right.
And the Jaguars won the first 2 sets of that match, and the Pacers rallied to win 3 sets in a row to win in 5 sets.
Right.
And then the Pacers knocked the Jaguars out of the conference tournament, and it's because of those matchups. That's why the Jaguars are as hungry as they are this season.
And with that type of hunger, you definitely feel losses like this more. But again, the trick is to allow your leadership to step up and just forget about this and play your hearts out tomorrow, because you thought this was going to be intense. Wait until tomorrow. Wait until tomorrow. You've got the number 1 team coming in here. This house will be rocking tomorrow for this volleyball game. And Augusta, if head coach Shannon Quarles and the rest of the team to do everything they can to be as well physically prepared, but more mentally prepared. Because, yes, this was damaging tonight, but the mentality going into this is key, because you do not want to lose back-to-back games against the 2 teams you're stuck in between against, Aiken and the Bearcats. So it's got to be a fiery mentality coming in. It also has to be very disciplined, very work ethic oriented, but also playing to your strengths, playing to your game plan. Seize the moments when they arrive to you. Be able to fiercely strike as you have over the past month, month and a half, and when you get Aiken out of their game, as little as that has been done, be sure to capitalize on that, because that goes a long way. As you saw what Lander did to Augusta here, that's going to be tenfold imperative to what Augusta will be able to do to the Pacers tomorrow, to be able to try to rebound from this loss to be able to win tomorrow.
Right now, the Pacers are trying to close out Georgia College. They're in the 4th set. The Pacers lead at 2-1 over in Milledgeville. That's what's going on over there. And once again, the final score from here at Christenberry Fieldhouse: the Lander Bearcats defeat the Augusta Jaguars 3-1. I'm Robert Ambrose, alongside Blake Collins. This has been a special presentation of the Augusta University Athletics Network on YouTube. Good night, everybody. See you tomorrow.